Hey, welcome. I'm Fred Yakey, the co-host, or the host, I should say, of the Barbershop Mentor Initiative podcast. And today, I got a special presentation. I'm doing something a little bit differently. For those that know about me and knows about this mission, it's really about mentorship. But you can't really do mentorship without having the youth in mind. So I have a unique guest and a host on the podcast, and I'm not in it. But we're talking about someone very, very special. I'm having one of our students, one of our scholars at Providence Cristo Rey High School here in Indianapolis, interviewing his mentor for his job, his corporate work study. It's the president of the Indianapolis Zoo, Dr. Rob Shoemaker. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this. This is what it's all about. It's about mentorship, and it's about sharing these experiences. I'm going to get out the way, but I want you to look at something special. When you watch this podcast, I want you to look at it and see what our youth can do if given the right mentorship. Thank you for subscribing and check it out.
I'm okay. How are you doing today?
I am good. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, that's great.
Thank you for inviting me to the barbershop.
Yes, thank you for coming. It's very beautiful. It's some nice equipment that we have in here. Okay, so just want to start off. So can you please tell us about how you got to working with zoos, what got you into zoos, what made you want to start working in zoos?
It's a big question. So my earliest memory, this is the truth, my earliest memory is that's what I wanted to do. Wow. I always wanted to work in a zoo. I always wanted to work with exotic animals. I don't remember ever wanting to do anything else, so I feel really fortunate in that way that I always had a really clear idea what I wanted to do. And I also feel really fortunate because I think the greatest thing my mom ever did for me, one of the greatest things my mom ever did for me, is when I would say that to her as a kid, she never once said, I don't know, maybe you ought to think about this job or that job, or you should be this or you should be that. The greatest thing she ever did, whenever I bring that up, she would say, I love that idea. That's fantastic. You should totally do that. I love that. That's one of the best gifts I've ever had in my life, because nobody ever told me that was a bad idea.
Wow.
And it worked out.
Right.
So that was a tremendous thing. And when I was little, I grew up in the Washington D.C. area.
Of course.
I would go to the Washington D.C. Zoo, the National Zoo, with my mom when I was little, and then eventually that's where I started working. That was my first job in a zoo, was working there. My home zoo, the zoo I grew up at.
Right. Cool. So what did you start out doing? What was your task? What animals did you used to work with?
So I should back up and say how I got there. So my initial thought at the time, when people would give me advice, and this was okay, this was normal advice at the time, people would say, well, if you want to work in a zoo, you should be a vet.
Right.
And that was true at the time. That's not really the advice I would give someone now. If you're interested in vet medicine, of course, but there's many, many, many occupations, as you know, many professions in the zoo community. But at the time, that was fair advice. Right. So I started working at a vet clinic when I was in high school. And they said, well, you want to work at a zoo? And I said, yeah. And I got, again, great advice. They said, well, it's very competitive. If you want to work in a zoo, then you better start making your contacts now. Wow. So you get to know people. So thank goodness they told me that. So I think I was probably 16. And the reason I remember that is because I was driving myself. So I was probably 16. I was working at the vet clinic, and then I went to the National Zoo. And to answer your question, my first job was I was a volunteer. So I started working with birds first. That's where they had an opening. So I spent a whole summer working with all the birds they had at National Zoo. And then migrated to primates after that, monkeys and great apes. And in there, also spent a little bit of time with elephants. Not very much, just a little bit.
Asians, right?
At the time, they had Asians and one African.
Oh, wow.
And then eventually they all lived together, and now it's only Asians.
Right.
But that was right. I got to, very fortunate, got to have experience with an African elephant. named Nancy, and then several Asian elephants. So it was a wonderful experience. But my focus was always primates. That's where I had the most interest early on in my career. And so I started working with all the monkeys and with the great apes. And at National Zoo at the time, it was only orangutans and gorillas were the only great apes that they had. So that was my first job, was being a keeper and doing keeper work. And I did that for a very long time in my career, which was great because I got to know the animals well by working with them every day. And then for me, then as I wound up going to doing my undergraduate and then graduate school, I could have the academic side and then simultaneously have the practical side and kind of blend those together. So that was an unusual way to do it. Most people don't do it simultaneously. And I'm not necessarily recommending that because it takes a very long time to do that, but it worked well for me, and I'm very happy of how that worked. And I wouldn't discourage someone from trying that, but it was just a little bit of an unusual path, but that's okay, it worked out.
Right, that's awesome. Also, so like, can you also tell us about like, so you started out volunteering at the National Zoo.
I did.
So what college did you go to, and like what did you study while you were at college?
Yep, great. So remember, I had that advice about vet school, so I was tracking to go to vet school. The other thing that I should say, so in my family, even my extended family, I was the first person to ever go to college. Oh, wow. So there wasn't a lot of advice from my family, a lot of support, but not a lot of advice. Right. So I got advice from the veterinarians that I worked with and others. And so I went to University of Georgia for 2 years for the pre-vet program. And again, not a big surprise, there's a big focus on agricultural animals, and that was not for me. Right. So it became pretty clear that I was not on the right path for myself. I enjoyed it, I respect it, I still respect vet medicine very much and like it very much, but it was clear that was not the right path for me. Right. So I thought, okay, I need to switch gears. So I switched and moved back home to DC, worked full-time at the zoo, and then went to George Mason University, which is in Northern Virginia, in Fairfax. And that's really, at the time, I think still true, it was considered more of a commuter school. So they do have people that live there, but because of the area, a lot of people would commute in and out to school, both for undergraduate and graduate. Right. So I went there and finished my undergraduate degree there in biology, and then did a master's in evolutionary biology and a PhD in biology also. Wow. So turned out to be a great situation for me.
Cool, that's great. That's great to hear. Then what brought you to our zoo? So I know you've taken many paths in your life, and you ended up in Indianapolis, Indiana.
I did, and I'm happy about that, that's for sure. Yeah. So I worked at the National Zoo for about 20 years, and then had the opportunity to go to Des Moines, Iowa, and at the time, the name has changed now, but at the time I worked for a place called Great Ape Trust, and it was, there was nothing. We built the facility from the ground up, and it was devoted only to orangutans and bonobos. So I worked there for 7 years, and then got recruited to come here to Indianapolis, and I've been here ever since. You know, this is year 15 for me in Indianapolis, and I love it. And hope to spend the rest of my career working here at the Indianapolis Zoo.
That is awesome. We'd love to keep you here as well.
Thank you.
Hope we can find a way to
appreciate that.
Keep you. Yeah. So now that you're here, what are some of the things that you've been tasked with? Like, what is your favorite thing to do while you're at our zoo? So
when I came here, my job was very different than it is today. So my first job was to manage all the animal areas at the zoo. As a vice president, and I loved that, and that was very close to my background. But then I started acquiring other departments, and then a few years ago started to track for the CEO position. My predecessor, Mike Crowther, talked to me about that, asked me if I was interested, and I said yes. So he provided me with guidance and mentorship, and eventually the board decided I'd be the successor to him. So I started off managing all the animal departments and acquired the education department, the conservation department as well. Then became the director of the zoo, which was most of the departments at the zoo. And then as CEO now manage all the departments at the zoo. Not sure I ever would have imagined being in this role when I started off at the National Zoo,
Right.
you know, when I was in high school. That was a long time ago.
Right.
So this is year 5 for me, just finishing year 5 as the president and CEO at the zoo.
And even though you are the president and CEO of the zoo, you also work very closely, hands-on with the orangutans that are at the zoo.
I do. One of the things that's really important to me when I started the research program that I did during graduate school, this is working with orangutans on computer interface.
Yep. Cognitive research.
Cognitive research, absolutely. I never wanted to give that up. So I still devote maybe about an hour a day to that. And that's been going on for a very long time. So we're very fortunate here at Indianapolis. This is the longest continuous cognitive study with any orangutans ever.
Right.
It started in 1994.
Wow.
Continues up until today, and it'll keep going. And then we just launched, maybe a little bit less than a year ago, a cognitive research program with all of our chimpanzees. So it is now a hub for understanding great ape cognitive abilities and mental skills at the Indianapolis Zoo. So I'm very proud of that.
Wow, that is very great. And then, so just a little bit about the co work study aspect of our school. So how do you feel that program benefits us, and how have you taken a part in that program?
Sure. Well, when I started 15 years ago at the Indianapolis Zoo, we were involved with the corporate work study program at that time, but at a really reduced level. We would have 1 or maybe 2 students at a time, and it was okay. I also think the program here at the school has evolved a lot. So it is a very strong, remarkably important program, I know, here at Providence Cristo Rey, and it has become increasingly important for us at the school. So when I said we had 1 or 2, we then, I think we even had a year maybe where we didn't have anybody.
Wow.
Maybe that was just for 1 year. And then we came back, and now we built up to have 5 students. You're one of the 5, of course. And I'm super proud of this program. I love that we can be involved in something, first of all, that's so important to the school, so important to the students that are part of it, and it has become an incredibly important program for us at the zoo.
Right.
So several years ago, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was always a little bit of a struggle to place students, but a number of years ago, with the resurgence of everything, and you've been part of that, it has now been competitive for us. People compete to have one of the interns in their department, or to be a mentor working with them. So it is really competitive now and really desirable. And we have 5. I think we could even host more because people are so excited about it. So I like the fact that, I like a lot of things about it. I like the fact that it gives people at the zoo a real sense of pride to be a mentor.
Right.
They really love investing in the students. I think it's tremendous for our zoo to have young professionals, students who are emerging professionals, young professionals, to be present, to be interacting with our staff, to be interacting with our guests. I love that. I love that it's a great reflection of our community.
Of course.
And of course I love, hopefully, the value that it gives to the individual interns. So, you and I worked together now, well, not quite 4 years, maybe.
Yeah, going up on it, yeah.
You're
I
just
think
in the
this
beginning,
month-
your 4th year.
This month would be my full 3 years of actually being at the zoo.
That's right. So you'll have a whole nother year. So it'll been a full 4 years.
Yes.
And that's, I think, the best case scenario when we find somebody where it works well for that entire 4 years, and we can invest in everybody for an entire 4 years. Now, sometimes it doesn't. That's okay too. If it's not, I mean, finding out that it's not the right fit for somebody
That might be
is super
even better,
valuable.
right.
Of course, super.
Right.
So that's a success too. And so we've had people that have come in and maybe their 2nd or 3rd year, and then it works great.
Right.
So I think being flexible and knowing that the program requires, first of all, dedication and focus and commitment, but the value of it is absolutely tremendous to us. So we couldn't be happier that we are a partner in this. We're super proud of it.
Right. I'm glad to be there. And you guys have gone beyond just the whole co-work study experience. You even had us come back during the summer to even
That's true.
to come and earn money.
That's right.
Get even more.
That's
work
true.
experience.
Well, it also shows how much you and the other interns are valued, because people wanted you back in the summer. So that was kind of unexpected when we said, well, you don't have anything lined up for the summer? Come back.
Right.
So it's not just been during the school year. It's been almost 12 months out of the year for like 3 years now, and now for your last year. So.
Right. And me personally, I like how you guys have kind of gone beyond just the whole, you work here, so we're gonna have you do our work here, but you also going and being a mentor to many students as well, including myself. We were just talking about earlier how I went to Georgetown for a couple weeks this summer in DC, where you grew up.
That's where I grew up.
How much fun it was for me, and how you really pushed for me to apply for that program. How
That's true.
I'm hearing stories about how you're bragging to other people. Oh yeah, Javion's going to Georgetown. Javion's going to Georgetown.
I do brag about. I brag about you all the time.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you.
And it was good?
Yeah, it was awesome.
And did you get to see much of DC?
Yes. So
how'd you like it?
So the whole program, just to give a little backstory, is for Métis students that are coming from first generation. They're going to be first generation college students. Yeah. So
which I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of helping with that transition, giving you a little insight of how college is going to be. So we stayed in dorms, or we went to classes. You got to go to classes based on your interest. So I took biology and anthropology while I was there. And yeah, you got to eat in the dining halls that they had, and then you also had the opportunity to go off campus and be your own person. So me and another friend from the school that went down there, we took bikes everywhere that we went.
That's good.
So we biked to the National Zoo.
Nice.
Had a lot of fun there. We biked to the Washington Monument, seen the Martin Luther King and the Lincoln Monument.
Beautiful.
We went to an art museum while we were down there. We didn't get to hit up all the museums, unfortunately.
I lived there a long time. I never got to all the museums.
Wow. So, but we got a lot done in those couple weeks. We went to the harbor.
Oh, Inner Harbor, nice.
Yep, we went there. We also went to Six Flags, which is a little bit more in Maryland.
Yeah.
It was really fun. So it was a great experience.
Good.
Met a lot of good friends. Actually, my roommate, so little backstory, it was all Cristo Rey kids from around the country that went. And my U.S. history teacher last year, he used to work in Cristo Rey, Tampa, where my roommate goes currently. And he had my history teacher, his name is Mr. Strawby, he was in Tampa.
Yeah.
And that was just a funny connection, how we both had the same teacher.
Oh, wow.
And then we were in that program together. It was really cool. Met a lot of friends.
So Georgetown's one of the places you'll apply to?
Yes.
Would you feel comfortable going there?
I would feel very comfortable.
Good.
It was a really good school. It's not too huge at all either. It's great history, great city to live in.
They'd be lucky to have you.
Yes, I would love to go there. It would be awesome.
Okay, good.
Okay. And then I think I have one final question for you for today. What advice would you give to any young person that is like striving for success? Sorry.
My advice is a little bit different than I think you hear a lot. So I've always heard this kind of advice that says, oh, you always have to be thinking about your next job. You always have to be pushing forward to the next thing so that you can advance. I don't really agree with that. I think you can have in your mind what you want to do, of course, but I think you have to be really good at where you are. Right. Work at being the best you can be at what you're doing right now. And I'll tell you honestly, I've never been thinking about my next job. Okay. I've always been thinking about how can I be the best I can be at the job I have. And then it's always been somebody else that says to me, hey, have you thought about this or that next position?
Doors just open when you do what you're supposed to do.
It's true. And honestly, those always caught me by surprise. You asked how I got here to Indianapolis. I got recruited. I got offered the position. I wasn't thinking about that at all. When I came here and my predecessor asked me, would you be interested in being the CEO? That had never occurred to me, never. Wow. So the advice I would give very specifically is be excellent at what you are doing. Make yourself as good as you can possibly be, and make yourself very valuable to whatever your organization is. It doesn't matter what it is, just make yourself very valuable, and people will note that. Right. Because I think some people spend a little bit too much time thinking about, well, what's next, or what's the other thing I should be doing. Right. That can be distracting.
Right. You'll get too caught up and then forget about where you are now.
I think so. Wow. I think so. So I would say make sure you can really be phenomenal at what you're doing right now, and doors will open for you.
I think that's all I had for you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, and I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for the school, for any doors that you've opened. We're really grateful for you.
Thank you. I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
Javion, can you ask Dr. Rob, is there anything upcoming for the Indianapolis Zoo that he can share for our community, so they can come and support the zoo and kind of have a chance to experience it?
Thank you. Yeah. Sure.
So are there any events that are coming up, anything special that the zoo is going to be offering soon, or?
I can. So right now we're recording this at almost the end of September. Okay. And the rest of the year is very important to us, primarily working with the community. So we have 5 weeks of an event called Zubu, right, which is all Halloween themed. Great for kids, so it's fun, spooky, nothing scary, and it is an incredible opportunity for families. Right. And then right before Thanksgiving, we begin all of our Christmas celebrations at the zoo, also phenomenal for families. So I would say if it's one of the best times of the year to come out to the zoo, bring your friends, bring your family. All ages would have a fantastic time. And then we'll be opening a brand new exhibit in the spring of 2025. I can't say what it is next, but it will be absolutely fantastic and something entirely new to the zoo, which will be really quite incredible.
You guys have been opening exhibits every year.
We do. We open something new every year. That's our tradition.
It's a lot of work, yeah.
It's a lot of work, but that's part of what helps us grow. And we are super invested in the community, and we want people to come back every year and have a wonderful, wonderful time.
All right. So thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. I told you you're gonna love it. Do me a favor, go to our YouTube channel. We need to get our subscribers up. We wanna make sure that we can flood this wonderful world of ours with positivity, with influence of love, and with hope. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you share this wonderful opportunity so others can take a part of it. I'm Fred Yakey, and thank you so much for watching the Barbershop Male Mentoring Initiative podcast. Take care.